Hi, welcome to Coding Bootcamp's YouTube channel. Subscribe now and join our live stream session later. See you.
Thank you for your interest in this course, Introduction to Cybersecurity. This course is a presentation of Coding Bootcamps. So this is Introduction to Cybersecurity, and we are going to look at how cybersecurity works. A little bit about myself. My name is Jim Sullivan. I am a senior instructor at Coding Bootcamps and also a blockchain developer at DC Webmakers. As a software engineer, I've worked with blockchain development, DevOps, blockchain security, cloud, application development, and the safe, agile methodology. The blockchain platforms I've worked with are Hyperledger, Ethereum, and Corda. And I am also a programmer, and some of my skills span Java, Kotlin, Go, PHP, and .NET. There are no prerequisites for this course. So the high-level topics that we'll address, we'll do the cybersecurity overview, a review of cryptography, computer security, application security, network security. We'll look at penetration testing, hacking versus ethical hacking, and also how to become an ethical hacker. So our takeaways from this course is a rich overview of cybersecurity. Some follow-on classes, a look and an introduction to blockchain cybersecurity, introduction to the Linux operating system, and this is a good one, introduction to Python programming. Thank you again for your interest in this course. Again, a presentation of Coding Bootcamps, and we'll see you in the course. Welcome to this course, Introduction to Cybersecurity, a presentation of Coding Bootcamps. Our first lesson, Introduction to Cybersecurity, how cybersecurity works. Our topics are why we need cybersecurity, types of cyber attacks, what is cybersecurity, the CIA Triad, how is cybersecurity implemented. Cybersecurity is important because it can come from a number of attacks on any devices that are connected to the network. So cell phones, computers, laptops, tablets, anything connected to the network is vulnerable to a cyber attack. These are some, but not all, popular cyber attacks: malware, phishing, password attacks, denial of service attacks, rogue software, malvertising, drive-by downloads, man in the middle. Malware is well known. It's a way of, in a stealth method, downloading software to your computer where it can take your data, it can take your location, it can cause problems on your PC. Phishing is a type of fraud where what would seem to be a legitimate email is sent to you and sends you to maybe a rogue site in order to pick up any type of passwords you may have or user IDs. Same thing with password attacks. Denial of service is done a lot of times to shut down a business or embarrass it. Malvertising is along the same idea of malware, where you see an advertisement, click on it, and it causes some malicious files to be downloaded onto your computer. Cybersecurity refers to a set of techniques used to protect the integrity of networks, programs, and data from attack, damage, or unauthorized use, and unauthorized access, unauthorized deletion, or updating the files without the permission of the user or the enterprise. The CIA Triad here of hardening up and protecting our computing assets and software assets: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Quite often, cyber attacks target one or all of these, or a mixture of these. So making what's confidential, putting it out in public, damaging the integrity of our systems, or hurting its availability. So confidentiality would be cracking encrypted data, data leakages, installing spyware. Integrity would be penetrating into a network, unauthorized scanning of databases, remotely controlling with systems using bots, maliciously accessing servers, or updating records without the permission of the enterprise. Availability is denial of service. Ransomware encrypts the files on a computing system and then requests that the user pay a ransom for the key to decrypt. Deliberately disrupting power and flooding a server with too many requests. That's an example of a denial of service. So what we want to do here when we implement cybersecurity is we want to identify vulnerabilities, analyze and evaluate, and remediate or treat. So a vulnerability refers to some kind of weakness that can be exploited. Could be a defect, could be a bug, could be something that was working fine, but due to a change in the computing environment, the data environment is now a vulnerability that can be exploited. A threat is anything that has the potential to bring harm to the organization. There could be natural threats, intentional threats, unintentional threats. Threat assessment techniques are used for understanding threats. And risk is always has some kind of probability associated with it. So if you think of air travel, there's always a risk of an accident, but the probability is very low. So risk refers to the potential of damage or loss, and the risk is assessed based on a probability or vulnerability, and risk management is key to cybersecurity. So what we learned here in this session is that we learned the reasons for cybersecurity, how cybersecurity is implemented, the CIA Triad, and some techniques for actually evaluating our need for cybersecurity. So our follow-up session is Introduction to Cryptography, Encrypted Algorithms, and how various cryptographic algorithms work. Highly recommended follow-up courses: Introduction to the Linux operating system, Introduction to Blockchain Cybersecurity, and Introduction to Python Programming. Please consult your learning materials for more information on these courses. Thank you for watching this video. And again, this was a presentation of Coding Boot Camps. Welcome back to this course, Introduction to Cybersecurity. This is a presentation of Coding Boot Camps. Our lesson here is Introduction to Cryptography, how cryptography works. So our topics here are Introduction to Cryptography, encrypting algorithms, and how various cryptographic algorithms work. So just a recap of what we learned so far. We went over why we needed cybersecurity, the types of attacks, what is cybersecurity, the CIA Triad, and how cybersecurity is implemented. Well, right here is a good example of why cybersecurity is important. You can see here Andy and Sam are communicating over a network, probably sending just clear text to one another, unencrypted text. Problem is you don't know who else is listening. So Sam and Andy think they're communicating directly with one another. However, as we can see here, Eves has come onto the network. He's intercepting the message that Andy thinks he's sending to Sam, changing the message and saying, Sam, would you lend me $100? And it looks like Sam is actually complying, but it's probably going to be $100 that goes back to Eves. So this is why it's important to make sure that only the intended party can read your messages or gets the messages, and that we encrypt and make it impossible for any third party or malicious third parties to read our messages. We can see here a little bit about the introduction to cryptography. We have a message here. You can see it's a numeric message, 1034259. We encrypt it. It becomes what we call ciphered. It goes out publicly. The cipher is meaningless to any third parties or other parties out on the public web. We decrypt it, or there's an error delivered. So if somebody tries to read this message, and tries to decrypt it, it's better that they get an error than they actually get our message. Here's another example here where Andy is using encryption, so is able to take this message, encrypt it here to this cipher, and Eves is somehow managed to alter the message. However, we notice the cipher here says ends in 3001, and even though he's managed to alter it, the cipher is now 3004. And what happens when Sam tries to decrypt it, he'll at least get an error. He's not going to get a fraudulent message, which is better than what we had before. So cryptography here is a brief hierarchy of cryptography. There is symmetric key cryptography, where the same key is used to encrypt as it is to decrypt. Asymmetric key cryptography involves two keys. Classical cryptography involves transposition ciphers and substitution ciphers, whereas modern cryptography involves stream ciphers and block ciphers. So how various cryptographic algorithms work. Before we go any further, let's take a little break, pause this video. Okay, let's continue. So we can see here with symmetric cryptography, there's plain text, which is a readable message for anyone. It's signed with a key, and there are various ways that this message can be encrypted. However, this is the key that's used. This is now the cipher text that comes out. Anybody with the key can decrypt it and convert it back to that plain text. So this is all the same key. So if there could be a key similar to, in the alphabet, maybe we switch the position of the letters 1. So every time there's an A, we make it a B. Every time there's a C, we make it a D. So that way, anybody who has that secret key knows when they see a B to convert it to an A, and anytime there's a C to convert it to a B. That would be an example of the symmetric key cryptography. Also, we see these transposition characters, so we can see here this message, meet me after the party, or meet me after party. We can see here that it is these are the positions right now, and then it's ciphered, the key used here is ciphered as this right here, 421635, which gives us this. Now, what we need is for transposition, somebody to know what position to convert it back to, and they'll be able to read the message. This is an example of substitution ciphers. So we see the zebras keyword. So we can see here there is a substitution using zebras right here, and it converts this message here, flee it once we are discovered, and then ciphers it to what we have right here. A stream cipher, there is a bit stream. We can see here is M, and the a pseudonym byte generator creates a cipher for us, and it becomes a C. And then there is a pseudonym byte generator here that does the decryption and converts it back to M. A block cipher here, we can see there was plain text, the block cipher, and now we have our encryption here. Now we have our cipher, and the cipher is read here by the block cipher decryption, and it's converted back to plain text. We have our RSA algorithm here, where there are two large prime numbers, and it's used to compute here a cipher. The numbers E, we can see here, such that E is less than N, which has no common factor other than 1 with Z. We can see the mathematical encryption here. Keys are generated. There is a public key and a private key, but they're both generated at the same time from the same mathematical calculation. We have our encryption here, C equals M to the E, and M is plain text and C is the ciphered text. So here we have our C. And then our decryption here, we'll use that C and convert it back. So with this type of cryptographic algorithm, there are two keys. The public key is shared, and that's what's used to encrypt the message. But only the person with the private key, the intended party, can decrypt the message. Here again, an example of the
Thanks for watching. Feel free to add your questions as comments down below.
Asymmetric key encryption or public key encryption. We have plain text here. A public key that everybody knows about is used, similar to a mailbox or an address, is used to encrypt the message. It becomes ciphertext. However, only the intended party has the private key, which can decrypt the message. So what we've learned so far, we learned our introduction to cryptography, encryption algorithms, how various cryptographic algorithms work. And our follow-up session, what is computer security threats, and best computer security practices. Again, our follow-on sessions again, introduction to the Linux operating system, blockchain cybersecurity, and Python programming. Please consult your learning materials. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more videos. Welcome back to this course, Introduction to Cybersecurity. Again, a presentation of coding boot camps. This lesson is Introduction to Computer Security, how to secure computers. Our topics: what is computer security threats, and best computer security practices. Just to recap, we had our Introduction to Cybersecurity, encryption, and computing device security. So components of a computer system, here's three ways to think about them. The hardware is the physical part of the computer, like the memory, the disk drives, the other chips that are in there. The firmware is software that's actually permanently etched into hardware and is mostly invisible to the user. It's mostly used for behind-the-scenes type of work. And then software programming that offers services like applications, word processors, internet browsers. That's what most users are familiar with. And that is not permanent software as far as the hardware goes. Again, the CIA Triad, the confidentiality, is ensuring that the information in the system is only available to the intended parties. The integrity is protecting the information and the computing resources from unauthorized parties, and that nothing is updated or deleted without the permission of the enterprise. And the availability is making sure the information is not being modified by unauthorized parties, and that it is indeed available when needed by the enterprise or customers. Again, we have our confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Some common computer security threats. Viruses are programs, hidden programs that either update your files without your permission or cause functionality without your permission. Computer worms begin to take over your system memory. Phishing, again, is a fraudulent software that causes you to think something is legitimate and tries to use fraud and trick you to giving confidential information such as bank account numbers or credit card numbers. A botnet are small programs that actually run on your computer. They are hidden as well. And they can actually do things like send out email on behalf of somebody else. Keyloggers are a way of getting your keystroke. So you might think your password is secret, but if the actual keys you're pressing are logged, your password can be stolen. Some best practices related to computer security: secure your computer physically. So and use reliable and reputable antivirus software. Stay up to date with the latest patches for all of your devices, all of your applications, all of your operating systems. Avoid clicking on email attachments unless you absolutely know the source. Change passwords regularly. Use combinations of letters and numbers with different cases. Use the internet with caution. Ignore pop-ups or any drive-by downloads. Take time to research and see the latest as far as computer security and cyber threats, and perform full system scans periodically. You don't have to perform a full scan all of the time. A lot of times they take a lot of time. a lot of firewall software, a lot of antivirus software will do light scans that look for sections of memory, sections of disk that are likely to have threats. So you can do that and then do a periodic full scan every few weeks. So what we learned here in this session, again, we learned what is computer security threats, and some best practices related to computer security. For our follow-on session, we're going to talk about cybersecurity, what application security is and why it's important, our application security checklist, SQL injection, and how to perform SQL or SQL injection. Again, follow-on courses, please look into these in your learning materials: Introduction to the Linux Operating System, Blockchain Cybersecurity, and Introduction to Python Programming. All of these are very good courses to take. Lots of information in there for what is needed today in the workplace. Again, thank you for watching these videos, and please stay tuned for our next set of. Welcome back to this course, Introduction to Cybersecurity. This is a presentation of Coding Bootcamps. Introduction to Application Security. How to secure applications. Our topics: what is cybersecurity? Why is application security important? Application security checklist. We're going to discuss SQL injection or SQL injection, and we are going to just look at an example of SQL injection. We're not going to learn how to perform SQL injection. So what we have learned so far, we had our intro to cybersecurity in encryption algorithms and computing device security. So cybersecurity is that body of technologies, strategies, processes, best practices designed to protect networks, computing devices, computers, programs, data, databases from attack, damage, or unauthorized access. Ensuring cybersecurity requires coordinated efforts throughout the enterprise and the information system. So we need to secure the network, we need application security, we need information security, and this can be maybe information around the office that may not necessarily be in some kind of a database. Maybe it's accounting information that is confidential. Operational security, also disaster recovery. Suppose there is a fire and we need to be able to back up our systems on a regular basis so we can have business continuity. Also end user education. Web application security is the process of protecting websites and other online services against security threats that exploit vulnerabilities in the application code. Common targets for web application attacks are content-based management systems like a WordPress product, database administration tools, and software as a service applications. And the reason why these web applications have some vulnerabilities is because they're public. And if you're using software as a service that is generally being managed offsite, you have a secure connection, but it does not mean that a malicious third party cannot get to the software as a service or a cloud application. So web applications tend to be a favorite target of hackers because they're public. They are information outside of the firewall for the enterprise, but still connected to the company's or the enterprise's system. So if code is poorly written, hackers can exploit application layer loopholes and initiate an attack. They can bring back data. They can cause the website to malfunction. They can cause the web application to go offline. If the code is complex, it increases the likelihood of unintended vulnerabilities, accidentally introducing a vulnerability without even realizing it, and malicious code manipulation. So some leading web application attacks: SQL injection, cross-site scripting, remote file inclusion, and cross-site request forgery. So some leading attacks on our web applications, on our websites, could be broken authentication, forging a request and then getting a legitimate response back from a website, broken access control. Again, SQL injection is sending actually database commands in through the website, in through the browser, with the hope that that query actually runs on that database and returns data literally back to the browser. Cross-site scripting involves injecting computer code, web browser scripting code in the event of hopefully getting some information, maybe on the names of some databases or on other key aspects of the application that can be exploited. And remote file inclusion would be to try to get the website to execute a file that could potentially provide access to a malicious third party. So the countermeasures to this include web application firewalls, pop-up blockers, again, cryptography, and spyware detection programs. So a lot of scanning for software that should not be running, access that should not be running, and encrypting information. Hardware countermeasures include routers, network routers that can prevent the IP address of individual computers to be visible on the internet. That's something that can definitely be exploited. Authentication systems that identify third-party hosted content and then keep that application safe. And intrusion detection alerts and alarms. Behavioral countermeasures include frequent deletion of stored cookies or temporary files from web browsers. These can be dangerous because if they are gotten a hold of, that can give access to a malicious third party. Regular installation of update and patches for operating systems. Regular scanning for viruses and malware and other bots or anything else that may be running that the user is not aware of. And refraining from opening email messages and attachments from unknown senders. A little bit about SQL injection. It is a very popular, it's funny to use the term popular, it is a very common type of an attack, and users have still been using it to this day. Also known as SQLI. It's a common attack again. They use database code, structured query language code for the backend database to manipulate access to information that was not intended to be displayed. So the attacker can actually send in database programming code in from the database with the hope of maybe returning an error. Sometimes an error will say, will give some information about the system being contacted. It'll let the hacker know that, all right, they're making some progress. At least they're hitting the system to the point where it's returning an error. And the purpose of the code is to create an SQL statement to select a user with a given user ID. And you can see here what's going on here. We are looking for a user ID on the system. Sometimes, or many times, database and application developers will use very intuitive names, which makes life easier for everyone, like customer database that keeps customer data, user database keeps user data. It allows the system to be clearer to others that are maintaining it. However, hackers also know that those are very common practices and then can send in commands, select from users, select from customers, and possibly return customer data or user data. So in this session, we learned again about cybersecurity. We learned about application security and why it's important, the application security checklist, and we learned about SQL injection. In our follow-up session, we're going to discuss network security, types of network security, and network security jobs. Again, our follow-on courses, take a look at these: the Linux operating system, blockchain cybersecurity, and Python programming. Thank you again for watching this video, and it's a presentation of Coding Bootcamps. Stay tuned for our next set of videos. Welcome to
If you have enjoyed watching this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.
this course, Introduction to Cybersecurity. This is a presentation of Coding Bootcamps. This is Lesson 5, Introduction to Network Security, How to Secure Networks. Our topics: what is network security? What is a network security attack? The types of network security, and we'll look at network security jobs. What we've learned so far is we had our introduction to cybersecurity. We discussed encryption and computing device and application security. So network security is the process of taking preventative measures to protect the underlying network infrastructure, again, from unauthorized access, any kind of misuse, causing a malfunction, a modification, a destruction, or improper disclosure. A network attack can be defined as any method or process that maliciously attempts to access the network or compromises the network security. And network security is the process of preventing those attacks of that given infrastructure using techniques and strategies that are understood that an attacker may use, whether the attack is an active cyber attack or a passive cyber attack, or some combination of the two. If we look here, an active attack, we see that Alice and Bob are communicating, and they're using a plain text message. And Tom, again, this is an active attack. Tom is intercepting the message and modifies the message. The passive attack here, Alice and Bob are communicating. They're obviously here, it says they're using plain text. Tom is just reading the message, so he's just either, he's intercepting it in a way, he's just reading it, he's not interfering with the communication, but still, both of these attacks can still cause a lot of harm. So our types of network security are controlling the access, application security, firewalls, virtual private networks, behavior. So social engineering is a big technique used by hackers. Securing wireless devices and Wi-Fi's, and preventing intrusion of the system. Here are a few software and hardware tools that are available for ensuring network security. So firewalls are a little bit software, a little bit hardware that block ports. Ports are sections of memory where applications are running. That if they are unused, they could be an entry point for a malicious third party. Packet crafters, packets, web scanners, packet sniffers. What these are doing is network traffic travels in the form of little messages called packets, and packet sniffers and crafters can determine, is there any inconsistency in how the packets are being sent? Are they being sent from, say, overseas or a country that's been suspected of attacking the network before? Intrusion detection and penetration testing software. A network security analyst and a network security engineer are two of the highest paid cybersecurity jobs. While network security engineer is more likely to be building out security systems, a network security analyst is likely to be tasked with scanning the network for plausible vulnerabilities. These are jobs that are in need and will be needed for the foreseeable future. Both of these positions earn an average between, you can see here, 90 to 150,000 per year. So what we learned in this session, we learned about network security and network security attacks, types of network security, and network security jobs. In our next session, we'll be looking at penetration testing, sometimes called pen testing, or most of the time called pen testing. The phases of penetration testing, what are different types of penetration testing, what tools are used for penetration testing. Again, our follow-on courses, please look into these. Introduction to the Linux operating system, blockchain cybersecurity, Python programming. And thank you again for watching these videos. And it was a presentation of Coding Bootcamps. Welcome back to this course on Introduction to Cybersecurity, a presentation of Coding Bootcamps. Introduction to penetration testing and how penetration testing works. So, what is enterprise cybersecurity penetration testing? What are the phases of penetrating into the information systems of an enterprise? What are the different types of penetration testing? What tools are used for penetration testing? What we've learned so far, we had our introduction to cybersecurity and encryption, computing device and application security, and network security. So penetration testing is the answer to a simple question. How am I going to penetrate all of the systems that are set up to protect an enterprise's information and computing systems? How will I be able to penetrate the safeguards that are put up that are protecting the network? So, what vulnerabilities are available to me to exploit so that I can penetrate an enterprise's information, network, and computing systems? Any flaws in design of the hardware or software, the firewall, anything like that? Usage of an unsecured network, maybe it's a Wi-Fi that is not secure, does not have a password, or the password is well known. Poorly configured computing systems and network applications, complex architecture of computing systems, and also human error. It also could be out-of-date operating systems, out-of-date applications. So what are some phases of penetration testing? Well, first, reconnaissance and planning is going to be done. Look for the vulnerabilities and start to plan how those vulnerabilities are going to be exploited. Scan. So scanning does a lot of work in a short amount of time, more than what could be done manually. Actually exploit those vulnerabilities, analyze the risks, and make remediation recommendations, and report on what was found, what was scanned, what was exploited, what are the risks, and what are the recommendations for remediation. So for report generation, recommendations are made in the previous phase of vulnerabilities that were discovered and the risk levels that are that exist. An overall summary of the penetration testing and suggestions for remediation and future security. Some types of penetration testing: black box testing, where there is zero knowledge of either the enterprise or the information system to which we are trying to gain access. That involves a lot of guessing. So that could be using very intuitive type of names for systems, guessing passwords, maybe using social media to find out people's birthdays or the names of their children. It involves a lot of guessing, but once something is found, we can provide information to the attacker. Gray box testing, where there is some kind of a test based on some knowledge, and then based on the results of that test, even if it's an error, may start to give some information on a vulnerability or a way to penetrate that enterprise's safeguards and get into their network. And then white box testing can come from some kind of industrial espionage, full knowledge on the system, a rogue employee, an employee that has been maybe terminated, a contractor that has gone in and gotten some knowledge. So that is also a type of penetration testing. And penetration testing types based on the position of the tester. So we can see here external, also internal. Consultant, anybody that gains access to inside the secure perimeter can penetrate the system. You can do blind testing, targeted testing, de-blind testing. These are very similar to the black box testing. Target is similar to the white box testing. Wireless, as in Wi-Fi's or devices, we can do penetration testing through there. Web applications we've talked about, gaining access to the firm's computing system through web applications. Network services also, and also any kind of client information like a a tool that they give me. Maybe it's a mobile application or a web application. And then there's network penetration testing using a secure shell. These secure shells are like command line shells, which help us to penetrate the network. Databases, so if we can access the database or compromise the database in some way. Email, this is an email protocol right here. We see what we can do as far as email, as far as putting malware inside that could open up, say, a port or grant access to somebody from the outside. And also file transfer protocol, which is a way of transferring files. If it's not encrypted, it's possible that we could send files inside of the enterprise, which can actually execute and grant access to a malicious third party. So application penetration testing, here the tester checks if there are any known vulnerabilities or weaknesses, and looks at web-based applications to see if there's anything discovered within that. Core application components, such as any kind of applications or Java applets or APIs, are also examined. Do they give some kind of an entry to a malicious third party? And so this type of testing does require a lot of time, a lot of patience. However, hackers are often very, very patient. Wireless penetration testing includes testing wireless devices to see how secure they are. Can they be used to grant access? Wi-Fi's as well, are they secure? Tablets, notebooks, smartphones. These tests spot vulnerabilities in terms of these wireless access points. Are they properly secured by credentials and wireless protocols? Social engineering is really a way of tricking somebody to reveal confidential information or sensitive information. There are two subsets here. Remote testing involves tricking an employee to reveal sensitive information by electronic means, and that can be done really by using phishing. Or physical testing involves the use of physical means to gather information, like threaten or blackmail an employee, extort the information from them. Client-side penetration testing. Here we identify security issues in terms of software running on customer workstations. The goal here is to search and exploit vulnerabilities on client-side software programs. Web browsers are a good example. So we're looking for here content creation software packages such as Adobe, other media players. These can be exploited, and sometimes they can even have malware running on them. Some of the tools for penetration testing. We hear Nessus is a network and web application security scanner. Scanners are actually very useful because they can do a lot of work in a short amount of time and scan for known or possible vulnerabilities. Metasploit is another exploitation framework. A skilled attacker can penetrate certain payloads, shell codes, gain access, and perform privilege escalation attacks using Metasploit. So our penetration tester wants to take advantage of these tools to see if it can be done. It's kind of like inspecting a bridge, looking for vulnerabilities in that bridge and making that known so it can be repaired. There's also network mappers that may be able to scan for ports that can give opening to the system and networks or look for vulnerabilities over ports. Wireshark is a tool for profiling network traffic to analyze packets to see where they're coming from. Is there consistency in the headers and in maybe some countries that they may be coming from? Other tools like John the Ripper, the Burp Suite, Cain and Abel are also very popular penetration testing tools. So in this lesson, we learned about the penetration testing and phases, different types of penetration testing, and penetration testing tools. Our follow-up session, a general perspective toward hacking and ethical hacking, white hat hackers versus black hat hackers, categories of hacking, Hackers versus crackers. Again, please look into these courses.
Thanks for watching. Please like and share this video.
Introduction to the Linux operating system, blockchain cybersecurity, and Python programming. Thank you again for watching this video, presentation of coding boot camps, and stay tuned for our next video. Welcome back to this course, Introduction to Cybersecurity. This is a presentation of coding boot camps. Our lesson here is Introduction to Hacking, how black hat hacking is different from white hat hacking. Our topics are general perspective toward hacking and ethical hacking, white hat hackers versus black hat hackers, categories of hacking, and hackers versus crackers. This is what we've learned so far. We had our introduction to cybersecurity and encryption, computing device, application, and network security, and penetration testing. So hacking is referred to as a way of looking to exploit any kind of vulnerabilities to gain access to an enterprise's computing system, personal computing system, or data, or both. It can be illegal or legal, depending on the intent of the hacker. It is performed by experts, and these experts are termed hackers. Hackers have the knowledge related to computer programming and its concepts. So black hat hackers, their objective is almost always criminal, to steal valuable information from another user or enterprise, to steal money or extort money through transactions and credit cards or bank accounts, to gain access to intellectual property such as music or videos. They download free hacking software, which is considered an illegal activity, to steal valuable military information or intelligence from governments and other organizations, and to access restricted networking spaces. White hat hackers look to discover these vulnerabilities in order to improve the system framework and secure it, developing high security programming languages like Linux and like Java, developing most of the security software for these organizations, checking and updating the software systems so we can understand what a black hat hacker can do and what is the risk of damage, developing programs like pop-up blockers, hardening a firewall, and ad blockers. Again, unethical hacking here, accessing computer, is criminal, whereas ethical hacking, again, is inspecting the enterprise for those vulnerabilities so they can be remediated. Types of black hat hackers. Phreakers, hackers who hack into telephone networks. Crackers, hackers who remove the security wall of software by using software patches. Carders, hackers that attack ATM and credit card type of devices to retrieve user information. And script kiddies, hackers who want to attack a computer system for no specific purpose. Maybe it's just notoriety. Some other methods of hacking are, again, phishing, tricking users into giving up their access information, such as their ID and password. Botnets, programs to run on an unknown and using exploiting a user's computer. The user doesn't know the botnets are running, and they can do things like send out emails on behalf of somebody else. And keyloggers, a way of capturing the keystrokes and recording them, and hackers can then obtain and steal user IDs, password, and other access information. Categories of hacking: Windows hacking, database hacking, web hacking, and network hacking. And hackers are usually very advanced in their levels of knowledge regarding computer security and possess all of the technical knowledge required. A few of them are skilled enough to develop their own software and tools. Crackers less so. Crackers possess highly advanced and technical knowledge and can create software and tools that are powerful enough to damage and exploit systems after analyzing system weakness. Most of the time, crackers do not leave their mark behind as they are very efficient at covering their tracks. Hackers are ethical professionals, whereas crackers hack into systems illegally without consent. Hackers can write code in many languages and possess a very, very thorough knowledge of computer languages like C, C++, HTML, Java. Crackers, not as much. They don't possess as much in the way of technical skills about computer programming. Their work and the intent behind it makes them poles apart from hackers. So, what we've covered here are general perspective toward hacking and ethical hacking, white hat hacking versus black hat hacking, categories of hacking, and hackers versus crackers. In our follow-up session, we're going to discuss what is an ethical hacker, requirements to become an ethical hacker, roles and responsibilities of an ethical hacker, the skill set and job trends of ethical hacking, how much money can an ethical hacker make, ethical hacker job profiles, and companies hiring ethical hackers. Again, please look for information on Introduction to the Linux Operating System, blockchain cybersecurity, and Python programming. Thank you again for watching this video, and stay tuned for more videos. Welcome to this course, Introduction to Cybersecurity, a presentation of coding boot camps. This is our final video on Introduction to Cybersecurity. Introduction to Ethical Hacking, how to become an ethical hacker. Our topics here is what is an ethical hacker, requirements to become an ethical hacker, roles and responsibilities of an ethical hacker, ethical hacking skill set, ethical hacking job trends, how much money does an ethical hacker make, ethical hacker job profiles, and companies hiring ethical hackers. What we've learned so far, we had our introduction to cybersecurity and encryption, computing device, application, and network security, penetration testing, and good and bad hacking. So hacking can be legal if done with permission. It's like an inspection to see if there are any problems with a device or a building or some kind of machine, to find those weaknesses and fix them. Computer experts are often hired by companies to hack into their systems to find those vulnerabilities and those weak points, to see if they can be hacked and to see if they can be resolved before a real hacker comes in and causes real damage. This is done in a precautionary method as measure against malicious hackers. Such people who hack into systems with permission without any malicious intent are known as ethical hackers, and the process is known as ethical hacking. Even though most jobs require you to have a bachelor's degree in computer science or a cybersecurity related field, exceptions are made for people with sound knowledge of operating systems, databases, and networkings. Also, it is highly impossible to directly become an ethical hacker. Most ethical hackers begin their career as in some kind of tech support or some other part of the industry, and advance by earning certifications like the CCNA, and they work toward eventually certified ethical hacking certification. Earning your certified ethical hacking certificate, or CEH, is time to once you have that, it is time to market yourself as an ethical hacker. Scanning, opening, and closing ports using Renaissance tools like Nessus or Nmapper, engaging in social engineering methods, ways of tricking people to get access information, examining patch releases by performing vigorous vulnerability analysis on them. An ethical hacker will see if they can evade any of the intrusion detection systems or the intrusion prevention systems. Honeypots or firewalls. Honeypots sometimes can be bait to attract a hacker to a harmless part of the organization, or a harmless, something that the hacker might think is actually valuable, but is actually, there's nothing in there that's valuable, and it attracts and distracts a hacker. Ethical hackers can employ other strategies like sniffing out networks, bypassing and cracking wireless encryptions, and hijacking web servers and web applications. A person with an ethical hacking career is expected to be proficient in database handling, networking, and operating systems, and also have excellent soft skills, project management skills, as they need to communicate problems regarding security to the rest of the organization. So a skill set here for an ethical hacker, network traffic sniffing, in looking at the packets, seeing where they're coming from, are they consistent? Orchestrate various network attacks to see what vulnerabilities can be discovered. Exploit buffer overflow vulnerabilities. Exploit SQL or SQL injection. Password guessing or cracking. Session hijacking, where actually session tokens or legitimate session tokens are taken over by a hacker to see if they can be used to gain access to a system. And also domain name service spoofing, so tricking the network into thinking that a computer that's not part of the network is part of the network. And we can see here ethical hacker job trends, very much on the rise. Certified ethical hackers can make an average annual income of over $80,000, according to PayScale. And the average starting salary for a certified ethical hacker is about $95,000, according to the eCouncil senior director. The founder of No Wire Security estimates that $50,000 to $100,000 per year for the first years of service to your employer, depending on your experience and education. Those with a few years of experience can get upwards of $120,000 a year, particularly those that work as independent consultants. So some job profiles: information security analyst. You can be a security analyst, a certified ethical hacker, an ethical hacker, security consultant for either computing, networking, information security manager, and a penetration tester. An ethical hacker finds a job in any company, because everybody needs it. Any company that has an internet-facing site or anything to do with the web, right? They can be educational institutions like MIT, or even private companies, financial institutions, insurance institutions, food service. Everybody's a software and a data company these days. Retail. So companies ranging from all of those industries. Apart from these, you also get a chance to work for the military, for the government, intelligence agencies like the CIA, Mossad, and the NSA. So what we learned in this session: who is an ethical hacker, requirements to become an ethical hacker, roles and responsibilities of an ethical hacker skill set, and ethical hacker job trends. Again, please look into these highly recommended classes: Introduction to the Linux operating system, Introduction to blockchain cybersecurity, and Introduction to Python programming. Thank you for watching this course on Introduction to Cybersecurity. This has been a presentation of Coding Bootcamps.
Thank you again for taking this course in Introduction to Cybersecurity, a presentation of Coding Bootcamps. And we covered our cybersecurity introduction, and we discussed how cybersecurity works. The list of topics we covered are cybersecurity overview, a review of cryptography, computer security and application security, network security, penetration testing, hacking and ethical hacking, and how to become an ethical hacker. Congratulations, you have finished this class. For some follow-on classes, we recommend looking into an Introduction to Blockchain Cybersecurity, Introduction to the Linux Operating System, and an Introduction to Python Programming. This is a really good course. Thank you again for taking this course, and thank you for working with Coding Bootcamps. See you in the next class.